to yield to my friend from Utah, also part of the Education and Workforce Committee, Representative Owens.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it. I rise today in opposition to the nomination of Julie Su for the U.S. Labor Secretary. I've always been told you can get some idea of a person's future judgment and skill based on their past judgments and skill. Ms. Su has a history that's very instructive. It was during her tenure as Secretary of Labor and Workforce Development Agency in California that put the Golden State on a fast track to bankruptcy and economic collapse. Because of Ms. Su's leadership, hundreds of business headquarters have fled the state. Between 2020 and 2022, over 500,000 Californians have left the state for greener pastures. As an executive, the primary responsibility for any state that you're representing is you should be growing it, not expelling your citizens. Ms. Su's reign has shown a failure in both judgment and skills. Under her watch, over $31 billion of California COVID funds was delivered to bank accounts of fraudsters. At the same time, delays and red tape plagued legitimate COVID relief claims, those who desperately needed it. Caving to the demands of union bosses, Ms. Su has been and will continue to be totally tone deaf to business owners, never understanding Americans who build our nation's tax base, who power our middle class, who pays her salary, and who through robust employment is a source of union dues. She literally turned her back on the goose that lays the golden egg, the California's risk-taking business owners. At the behest of the union bosses, she instead launched an all-out assault on independent contractors critical to the success of the gig economy. At every government post Ms. Su has been appointed to, she has prioritized non-revenue producers, the union bosses, and unelected bureaucrats. Her priority has always been with those who empty the government coffers instead of those small business owners who through work, risk, expansion, paying their taxes, replenishes it. After forcing Californians who can't afford it to leave, the Democratic-controlled legislation then figured a way to tax departing citizens several years after the taxpayer's departure. Sad that this wisdom and creativity wasn't used on the front end to keep them from leaving instead. Unsurprisingly, the Biden administration plans to continue its disastrous anti-growth, anti-small business policies under the leadership of Ms. Su. American families and workforce are hurting from 40-year record inflation, supply chain disruptions, and high energy prices. Ms. Su is not the right person to tackle Americans' pressing economic challenges. I call on the White House to withdraw Julie Su from the confirmation process for Secretary of Labor and prioritize America's families, the workforce, and economic growth. Thank you, and I yield back.